Hello, it's Ken. Thank you for watching. This is a short little presentation on the Ukraine and Bible prophecy. And the word Ukraine, you don't find in the scriptures anywhere, the word Ukraine. But what you do find in the scriptures is the word Scythian. Scythian. The word Scythian occurs in Colossians chapter 3 and verse 11. It says, "Where there is neither Greek nor Jew, circumcision nor uncircumcision, barbarian, Scythian, bond nor free, but Christ is all and in all." Scythia, Scyth comes from the word sickle, and Ukraine is heavy agriculture. Wheat, they have the best soil in the world right here, and they grow a lot of grain and things like that. And many times, traveling through the Ukraine, you'll see people out cutting their grass with a sickle, or even cutting wheat with a sickle. And so Scythia is the area north of the Black Sea in scriptures. And it's interesting that the word Scythia occurs in the book of Colossians. The book of Colossians, towards the end there, it says in chapter 4 and verse 15, it says, "Salute the brethren which are in Laodicea, in Memphis, in the church which is in his house." And then verse 16 it says, "And when this epistle is read among you, cause that it be read also in the church of the Laodiceans, and that ye likewise read the epistle from Laodicea." This particular epistle was to be read to Laodicea from Laodicea, which is today. It was to be read to the church of the Laodiceans from Laodicea. And we're in the Laodicean period today. And the way that works, there's like 7 different periods in church history. In the book of Revelation, Revelation has 22 chapters. The rapture of the church going out, is in Revelation chapter 4 and verse 1. And the word church occurs like 19 times in the first 3 chapters of Revelation, but not one time from chapter 4:1 forward to about 20, somewhere in there. The deal is this: the church has been raptured. It's not there. That's why it's not after chapter 4 through about 20, because it's up in heaven. And the first 3 chapters discuss the 7 different church periods. There's 7 different periods in church history, and the last period is called Laodicea, and that's the period that we're in now. Laodicea means rights of the people, or rights of the laity. And Colossians was to be read to the church of Laodicea from Laodicea, which is today. And Scythia is flagged in this book. And the characteristic about Scythia is it's compared to barbarians. Now watch this carefully. In Colossians 3:11 it says, "Where there is neither Greek nor Jew," 2 opposite parties there, 2 opposite to the extreme parties there. And then circumcision nor uncircumcision. You got 2 opposites to the extreme there. And then you got barbarian, Scythian. That's 2 opposites to the extreme there. And then you got bond nor free. That's also 2 opposites to the extreme. And so a barbarian would be somebody that carries a barbed object. It would be a spear chunker, basically. Somebody that's not civilized. And Scythians are just the opposite of that. Like here in the Ukraine, these are very educated people here. Very extremely intelligent people in the Ukraine. They have excelled in engineering, sciences, education. Myself, I know a lot about these people, and the students in the schools are motivated. They have really good schools in the Ukraine. They got very good teachers. It's a very interesting area. That's your Scythia of the Bible. Now, its wisdom in comparison to barbarians is in the intellect or engineering or education or something like that. It's not saying that they excel in spirituality or something like that. The comparison is barbarian. It's like spear chunkers. They carry barbed objects. That's where they excel in comparison there. But nevertheless, the Scythians are very wise people. They're very smart. I've met many of them that had even, they had farms. They were educated with high-end degrees, and they had farms, and they worked their own farms, and just pretty much an amazing people. Over in 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verse 11, it says, "Therefore, if I know not the meaning of the voice, I shall be unto him that speaketh a barbarian, and he that speaketh shall be a barbarian unto me. Here's a comparison here. 1 Corinthians 14 is talking about communication in this particular context, and it's talking about a barbarian has problems with communicating even. And here, as far as Scythia, these people excel in communications. I've had, personally, I've known translators that could speak in 9 languages fluently. I know one young lady, good friend of mine, that's Ukrainian, and she's fluent, government certified, educated, and speaks in 5 languages. Can you imagine that? 5 languages and fluent. And there's others that are either that are even more can speak even more languages than that. So as far as communications, intellect, education, engineering, Scythia is a very excelling nation there. And also in the Old Testament, you can find some typologies of these churches. For example, the book of Joshua, we talked about earlier that there's 7 church periods in church history that go up to Revelation chapter 4 verse 1. There's the Church of Philadelphia. And out of those 7 churches, Philadelphia was the only period in church history that Jesus Christ said kept his word. That's the only one. They were all represented as candlesticks. They all gave off light. But there was only one period in church history that Jesus Christ said kept his word. And that was the Church of Philadelphia. And that's where the King James Bible came from. As far as a study on the King James, that's another study in itself. But the book of Joshua is a good picture of the Philadelphia church. And the book of Judges, which follows that, it's a good picture of Laodicea. And then the book of Ruth, which follows that, it's a good picture of the trib, because when the church gets raptured out, you have a rapture of the church, and they get married to Jesus Christ. It's a picture of Boaz marrying a Gentile in the book of Ruth. It's a really good picture there. The book of Joshua is a good type of Philadelphia, because the Jews, they cross the Jordan River going into Israel, and they spread out. A lot of different things going on there. During the Philadelphia church, there's great exploration by the seas. There's 12 major regions on the earth, and so Philadelphia represents industrialization, exploration, and things like that. And so when they cross the Jordan River, that's kind of a picture of that. And then also the Jews, they circled Jericho 7 times, blowing the trumpets. That's a picture of the preservation of scriptures. That's a good picture of that, because God communicates like a trumpet. And what do they do after each one of those 7 times around the walls? They're sounding off trumpets. And it's a great typology. The Word of God is purified 7 times. So that's a great typology there. And then you've got the book of Judges. You've got, in Judges 16 verse 4, you've got Samson messing around with Delilah. And he messes around. I'll read that to you. That's in Judges 16:4. And it came to pass afterward that he loved a woman in the valley of Sorek, whose name was Delilah. That's interesting. That's in the valley of Sorek. Well, if you happen to be a Russian speaker and you're listening to this broadcast, you'll notice that the word Sorek is a Russian word. Sorek is Russian for 40. Sorek is Russian for 40. That valley there is like a valley that's between the Philistines and the Israelites. And it's kind of like a neutralized, lukewarm area, which is also a picture of Laodicea. Laodicea is known for being lukewarm, neither hot nor cold. And Delilah's in this valley, and this is where Samson goes down there and messes up in this valley. And the word 40, if you're into scriptural numerology, has many different types there. Noah's flood lasted 40 days. That's a picture of probation. Moses was on the mountain 40 days. The Jews are in the wilderness wandering for 40 years. The book of Exodus has like 40 chapters in it. Jesus Christ, before he was tempted by Satan, he was fasting for 40 days. There's a lot of typologies you can connect in with the number 40. We say it's like probation. And so he goes down, Samson goes down into the valley of Sorek. It's a picture of lukewarmness, it's a picture of probation. And he goes down in this valley, and that's where he messes up. He loses his vision. And but he does, towards the end there, he loses his vision, he gets his haircut, loses his strength, but he gets it back towards the end there. And in the book of Revelation, talking about Laodicea is talking about they got vision problems. They got vision problems, and it's Laodicea. That's what we're in now. So Colossians was wrote. It's one of Paul's epistles, and when I think of the word Colossians, I think of like something that's big, like really big. Like if you think of a colossal circus, you think of a giant circus, or a colossal building, you think of a giant building, or a colossal ship, you think of a giant ship. There's many different lines of thought as to why that Colossians was to be read to the church of Laodicea from Laodicea, which is today. And I would just, keeping it simplicity, keeping it simple, I would just suggest that just bear in mind that name Colossians is big. If you're going to go big. If you're going to do something for the Lord, do it big. Go big. In the Ukraine, many people are just individualistic, and they're a lot of them are they're small. They're in their own world. They don't like to be interrupted in their world. They go out and they go to work and they come home, and that's their world, and they don't go big. My exhortation would be to anybody connected with the Ukraine is to go big. Spend a lot of time in the book of Colossians. Colossians has 4 chapters. Real easy to digest. I mean, it's a real easy book to read. And I would spiritually, I would suggest that you study the book of Colossians. Colossians was wrote. Paul's epistles is the curriculum to the church age today. Paul wrote Romans through Philemon. He wrote Hebrews chapter 13. Paul was the 13th apostle. I would suggest that in Paul's epistles there that you spend a lot of time in the book of Colossians. Colossians was wrote to the church of Laodicea. It was to be read to the church of Laodicea from Laodicea, and has great exhortations, and I am sure that it will be a blessing to you for reading the book of Colossians. Well, hope this short little presentation on Ukraine, a Bible prophecy is a blessing to you. Thank you very much for watching.